have the senses, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. Well, the mental state, by certain activities, implies and insinuates a self. So you get a feeling of when there's an action that you're the doer, yes? Or when there's consciousness in contact, you know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, somehow you're the seer, the hearer, the feeler, the taster. Like there's an ownership. That doesn't come naturally, it's implied, yeah. Yeah, so to me, I went into recovery, when I got struck sober, it was definitely that statement that you'll suddenly realize that a power greater than you can do for you what you can't do for myself. I had that for sure. And its effects have lasted over 30 years now, 31 years just last week. So I just don't leave that like bottled up in recovery. My mind entertains, what does that really imply that something can do for us what we can't do for ourselves? That something must be where we're at all times. And I would say it's us actually, but not something that's obvious to us, but it is us, but it isn't obvious to us. So there's an us that it isn't obvious to. I say we're not that us. And then when you see you're not that us, then that us that we are becomes obvious. And it can have effects. And its effects are different than, you ever hear of the Course in Miracles? Very trippy book. Yeah, so it was like a download in the 70s. And they go into this thing I really liked. It would be called causeless effects. So there are a lot of effects that aren't caused. So they're appearing. Yes, they're contrived, they're imagined. Yes, they're seemingly, they appear to be true, but they're not true. They're causeless effects. There's nothing causing it. Yeah, therefore, it's not really an effect. Yeah, it's just, yes, yeah. So I would say this, the selfing is sort of like that. There's effects, yes, of living. There's contact, and that effect of contact, the mental state uses it to imply a cause. So, like, if you listen to your own language in your head, the language is basically implying you have a lot to do with a lot of shit you have nothing to do with. Yeah, it's like throwing out possessiveness, and I did it, or like that. Even a simple example of, you know, like 65 years ago, I was in Ocean Beach surfing. January 30th, I think, or the 23rd, something like that, right around my birthday. And the knee went out in the water, yeah? But then after I got out and everything, and then when I would tell people about it, I would say I hurt my knee. So it sounded like I went out there to hurt my knee, you know, like I took a hammer in my wetsuit, bam, bam, bam. But no, there was a response to something, which is the knee went out, and then something became aware of that. And then there was a narration of that awareness to imply it was me, and somehow I had something to do with it. Like, if I didn't fucking do this, then my knee, you know, it's just, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. So if you're in recovery, it's going to lead you to seeing that, all right, this happened when I was 9 years sober, and that's just made up, you know, it was always happening. I was doing those workshops and at the dry dock, and it all came out of how it works. And so I used to read that quite a lot, and I was looking at it another time, and there's on page 64, right when they're going into the recovery phase, the inventory phase, it says, hey, being convinced, which they use that statement a lot in the first few steps. So it's like a requirement in a way. There's the requirement for you to have an understanding that's going to allow a new possibility like being sober. You've got to be convinced of something. And this one thing is being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, has defeated us. So Bill W., knowingly or not knowingly, separated the two. There's self and us. Yeah, self. Us. Yeah. So it's not us that has defeated us through manifestations of us. It's self has defeated us through manifestations of self. Yeah. So why are most people reporting about the manifestations and calling them theirs? Yes, I just don't see how we're going to have lasting relief if we keep pledging allegiance to the problem. I don't know. So, you know what I mean? If you keep, it's sort of like if Stanley was here and he was manifesting through Paul, and Paul, every time it became aware or conscious of a manifestation, would call it mine, I would be in the act of being identified as Stanley. Yeah? So that, to me, I think, is the root of the problem. The root of the problem, which is a great, 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 great diagnosis because it's imaginary. You're not a self. You're not a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. You're not a thing, in a sense. You appear as a thing, but what you're appearing to is not a thing. Yeah? What's seeing you is not a thing. These eyes aren't seeing anything. They facilitate what we call seeing, but it's consciousness, yes? And consciousness is not a thing. There's not like, oh, there's consciousness, you know, little 6x4. It's just, it's a field of whatever, yeah, who knows, brilliant or alertness or whatever, that's inherently empty, I don't know, you can describe it thousands of ways. You'll never hit it on the nail on the head because it's us. You can't describe what you are, you can only be it, yeah? You can describe what you're not very well, but you can't describe what you are because you aren't. That is the fundamental block. So recovery says it in a way, because a lot of people must have ran into that block, because this isn't written in the big book, but it must have been an observation in the communities of recovered people, which is self can't get out of self. So wait a minute, so that probably means a lot of people, quote unquote, were seemingly trying to get out of self as self, and they observed that it wasn't working. And after beating themselves up and doing tons of things, they finally reached the conclusion, hey, self can't get out of self. I mean, that should put time out for everything, really. Okay, let that sit for a second. Let's not run right over to the next thing to do. But let's see, hey, wait a minute, self can't get out of self. Does that fit what I've been basically doing? Have I been, quote unquote, doing what it's describing, which is I've been trying to get out of self as self? Yes, yes, guilty, I am convicted. I admit to my innermost self, that's what's been happening pretty much since I was 6 years old, I'd say. Yeah? I've been trying to get out of me as me. And there's nothing like when you're struck with knowledge. Yeah? When you're struck with knowledge, a whole lot gets downloaded in no time at all, and a lot's revealed. Like most of my behavioral patterns and schemes and looking in time was trying to get out of self as self. Every drug I took, every shot I hit, everything, it was really basic. Every science fiction book I read, I was trying to get out of where I thought I was in. Basically, it was a strong drive. So when that behavior is finally described to me, I have the ability to be convinced that it's true. Yeah? So what does one do? I don't know, find out. I can maybe give you a policeman's artist composite drawing of what's happening with me, but I just categorize it as a traveling lighter, really. I mean, a lot of stabilized traveling lighter. And it seems like, wow, what's the big deal of that? It's a huge deal when there's the possibility of traveling quite heavy available to us, because like it or not, we're in a dualistic dreaming, yes? High, low, close, far, connected, disconnected, aversion, desire, all this. It's a huge interplay that keeps the whole little energetic ball rolling around, yes? Yeah, so like electric magnetism. So the magnetism produces electricity, electricity produces magnetism. Yes, so aversion produces desire, desire produces aversion. Yes, and so it just goes on and on and on. There's no in out of that. You're not going to get out of it, you know, for being in it. You're just not. You're going to go on, and da, 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 da. And it says beautifully in recovery, you can't get around this statement. if you see recovery as a linear process, which it is, it's 12 steps. And so the linear process, in any linear process, first would be more important than next, I would say. Yes, you would say first would be, wait a minute, I gotta listen to this, and then next, and not next, and then first. Yeah, next, and then get to first later. It'd be first, and then next. Yeah. So, all right, so the next in that statement is the third step of recovery. Turning, one's will life over to the care of a higher power. Yes, and playing the role of, it's going to be the father, you're going to be the child, all like this. It gives you some imagery of what it'd be like great masters would call it surrender, and then seeing everything as thy will be done. And after a period of time, observing thy will is done. It's not a future thing, you see it, yeah? So, all right, and it says, all right, so first, what's the first? Because the next is the biggest principle of recovery. Where's the first? It's only like 4 sentences before, and it says, first, you got to quit playing God. This is the key. Yeah, this is where the little Chinese thumb torture appears. Yes, it does. It's right there. You got to quit playing God. It doesn't give you, the 58 reasons why. It just doesn't work, really. Yeah, let's count the ways. No, it just doesn't work. Very small sentence. Yeah, and it moves on to the next thing. All right, so quit playing God. Yeah. All right. So I'm assuming from my own checking things out, the mental narration is playing God. Yeah, it tells you how you were, how you're going to be, how it is. It tells you how the day's going to be. It tells you how the vacation's going to be when you're not even on it yet. It tells you, oh, she's going to hate me for this, whatever. It's constantly pontificating with like far-sighted wisdom, which it has none of. Yeah, so that which is playing God is what we're listening to pretty much all day. Yeah, so that which is listening to it isn't that which is playing God. That which is listening is different than that which is playing God. Playing God is playing to the audience of what's listening. Yeah. If you watch the thoughts aren't appearing on your forehead. The stage is pointed this way. You're the audience. It's the whole historical, the whole animated, the whole imagery, the whole magic realism, all is for us, as what's real. What's real, if it believes what's happening, which is actually a presentation of false evidence, yeah? If it believes that false evidence suddenly appears real to us, yeah? It's not real, it appears real to us, because we're reality that just lent itself to this false evidence by believing in it, really. That's the whole thing. And then suddenly you believe you're really screwed, and then it makes sense to try to get unscrewed, but that just leads to it's just reinforcing the fallacy that you're screwed. You're really not screwed. It's appearing to be so, but you're not. Where's no screw? You know what I mean? They gave me a new one. No, you got one asshole. That's all. No new ones have been drilled. But yeah, so there's once you give reality to it, it makes sense to try to escape, yes. That's usually the drive. See, but you can't escape from an imaginary place, see? This is the dilemma, yeah? We're trying to get out of what we're not in, which is this idea of self. And we're trying to get into what we're not out of, which is this moment. We can't be out of this moment, ever. No one's ever escaped the moment, ever. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Without us, there's no moment. You know what I mean? It's like a car trying to get out of the car. Good luck. It can never get out of the car. Now, if it sees itself as the passenger, or sees that it's not the car, then the possibility, I can get out, becomes affordable. But never as the car. Yeah, never as self. Self's not going to get out of self. It's going to try to get out of a lot of stuff, but as self. You see, it's tucked into the in there. And then it's in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, but it's always in self. So you're the one that was in the situation, you're the one that's out of the situation. Neither of them are true. Yeah. Neither of them are really true. Yeah. There was an in and out, seemingly, but that in and out doesn't doesn't verify there was a someone in and out. It's just in and out. Yeah, just like a baby, when there's no sense of self yet, is shitting, doesn't even know it's shit. You know, it's just going on. A lot of activities are happening that if you were an adult, maybe not super old, because they probably don't know they shit either. But I mean, let's say middle age, if you shat in your pants, you would know. You'd have enough white wear. How am I got to stay in the bathroom. Come, bring me a pair of pants, you know. The baby, just like this, because there's no sense of being the one. So what seems to be terribly in isn't, and there's no urge to get out. Yeah, yeah. It's not the kid usually. The kid starts crying because of the rash, but it's the mother or father that realizes, ooh, package down there and cleans the thing. So. Here, now think, maybe I am insane, but it makes total sense to me, seriously. Everything that's come through, in my feeling, has a seamlessness to it that I don't find in trying to get somewhere that you are already at. I just don't see the logic in it. I really don't. I don't see the assumption that we're so sure of what we are that we know all the targets we want to arrive at. I have a huge suspicion about that assurance of what you are. I really do. I just don't see it holds any water. If the light that's constantly being, directed from out, if that just turns in, and you'll see. I mean, it's like going to a house. If you knock on the door 1,000 times and no one answers, you can be sure there's probably no one home. Yeah, so it's not like a deep study. You just hey, there's nobody home. So maybe what would that happen? It would bring lightness to this overriding conditioning and programming of being a someone. The someone's not going to get that it's not a someone. It's totally wasted time in my view. Really. The someone may need therapy and you better get it. You may need to meditate. You better, if you think you have to meditate, you better. But that's maintenance of what you're not. That's like taking care of the Toyota. The Toyota isn't dreaming to be like, the head car of the Indianapolis 500. It's just a functional fucking Toyota. You don't want to polish it 12 hours. It takes a half hour to clean it up. It's better. It's like, I mean, that's what always used to flip me out. To maintain this body, I didn't have to go sit 13 hours a day in a fucking forest in Thailand. I thought there was another objective I was attempting to get to, which was fucking transcendence. But as that. It's trying to really literally pick yourself up and throw yourself. You're going to be there every step of the way. Let me bundle it up. Where does the relief come from? Not getting out, but realizing you were never in. Seriously. That's the relief. The relief about, getting into the moment is based on the idea that you could never be out of the moment. No, there's no heralding, I got in the moment or whatever. It's just, you can't get out. This is how it is. So, and this idea of self, we grew into it. Yes? And therefore we can grow out of it, really. It's sort of like one of the old stories I used to use is with the hand and the glove. It's very imagery for me. And I pictured a world that was only based on one sense, feeling. No eyes, no hearing, no tasting, just feeling. And in that world, they had books that described heaven, and heaven was like the feeling of 1,000,000 rose petals. It's just the softness, whatever. That would be the exquisite. That would be like nirvana to that world. Yes. And so here's the world, but see, the people don't understand, or the hand doesn't know that it's in a glove, yes? So it's so used to being in the glove, it takes itself to be the glove. And now the glove is made out of rough material. So whatever it touches gets translated as rough. It doesn't matter if it goes to heaven and feels rose petals, it's just like 60 grit sandpaper, because the hand is interpreting everything. all these sense experiences, the feeling, sense of feeling, are being interpreted by what it's going through, which is this thick glove. So the only thing you can do is become like a fundamentalist about knowing what heaven is, because it has no sense feltness about it. It's never, everything it touches is with this grit, you know? Everything. So basically it's like it's a narration or an interpretation. Now the point is, so let's say it reads about it's not a glove, yeah? You would think, wow, that's great. Now, you know, the hand is going to read that it's not a glove. What would it possibly entertain? Pull out, you know, wouldn't be like, just come right out, you know what I mean? It's not locked in, yeah? But see, that the system has a lot of ways of deterring that simple recognition. Hey, I'm not a glove, and then the hand pulls out, because you're going to hear that you're not a glove as the glove, you see? The glove is going to hear, the selfing is going to hear that it's not a self. That doesn't go anywhere. It just convolutes it even worse, really, in my view. So the first thing is realize that what's listening to the talk about being a hand are gloves, seemingly. Yeah, first let's get clear about that. Yeah. And the glove is hoping to get it, you know, I'm not a glove, I'm not a glove, I'm not a glove, but that reinforces the gloveness, yeah? And then it's wanting to get out of the glove, as a glove is reinforcing the glove, yes? So it's dreaming of not being a glove is really all about a glove. Which can happen at certain groups because they speak about self quite a lot, but I would say as self. So it actually reinforces the bondage with the hopes of being free as that, when it's freedom from that, you know, as it says in recovery. Please relieve us of the bondage of self. It's an activity. It's not a bondage to self. That would mean there's a self and there's you bonded to it. It's of self. So the bondage of self is this, what we are is entertaining what it's not, really. Yeah? It's entertaining, it's the glove, the hand is. So what you need to hope for is to keep throwing the message. And it looks like the glove, and in this case, as it's a catcher's mitt, it's going to catch everything about not being a glove. You're hoping one thing gets through to the hand. Yeah. Once the hand, this is correct view in my view. The correct view or right view would be having the hand see it's not a glove. Yeah. Not the glove seeing it's not a glove, but the hand. When the hand sees it's not a glove, I'm serious. The possibility is, now it may put itself back in, but now it doesn't, it knows something it wasn't knowing before, that it's the hand, yeah? And how it gets reinforcing is by learning a lot about what it's not, which is the glove, and experiencing a lot of shit through the glove, and realizing it's a freaking interpretation, and all this. So now the hand is starting to collate the information that before only the glove collated, yeah? And so the hand arrives at, hey, I may not be that, by knowing that. Knowing the glove informs it of, I'm not the glove, yeah? So studying the glove is freaking, hearing about the glove is valuable. Studying about it, having an understanding about the glove. Knowing the glove's highest level is just experiential. Because it comes and goes, its whole world is of coming and going, yes? But the hand is something other than that. The hand is right where it's always going to be, and it is what it's been looking for. Yes, this is some of the great masters would say, the seeker is the sought. What's looking is what you are looking for. These are beautiful, beautiful statements, not to the glove, but to the hand, yes? The glove will try not to be a glove, which is more glove, yes? You see, it confuses the message quite a lot, really. And a lot of times the corrections aren't available, so the confusion grows and it mutates. It does. It gets mass and momentum. And it's very, very confusing because now you think you've heard about you and you can't understand why it hasn't happened to you. Why is this? you would think that if you're not the doer, when you heard you're not the doer, it would be, that's clear. So all I needed was to hear that I was not the doer. But the dilemma is you've been hearing it as that which thinks it's the doer. So it tries to not do doing, you know? Yes, it's frustrating, very frustrating, and the stubbornness of it will go to hundreds of meetings like this. They will. Hundreds and hundreds of meetings with the hopes that they'll get it sooner or later. I'm telling you, you're never going to get it. Yeah. You may get a hearty handshake as the glove, but that's about it. You ain't going to get it. That's the beauty of it, yes? Because you are it. Yes? It's not available to what you are to get what you are. It's the only availability is to be what you are. And I'm humbly saying it's doing that right now, even though we may not think so, because we're thinking from what we're not, really. And so from what we're not, we're not even close to being clear and super stabilized and everything like that. You'll never be. You'll never be. Ever. You know? You can get, you know, maybe you know, maybe there's like great spiritual athletes that will show equanimity in, you know, dire situations, but most people need like a controlled environment to be chilled out. Yeah. Yes, yes. It's like they used to have these Zen retreats in New York City in like the Bowery for 7 days, so they'd be a homeless person, but they knew what they'd go home and having a microbiotic dinner the 8th day. So the fear wouldn't be like when you're really fucking on the streets. Yeah? I mean, it was like sort of, you know, like a play acting, which is cool, but you knew you weren't going to be there the 8th day. Now, if you were there the 8th day, it would have affected the first 7 days. You would have been looking for those refrigerator boxes and fucking moving in. You know, shit like that. And I learned all this the hard way. I did. I went to meetings and I heard descriptions of what I was. It sounded good, you know, it's because I didn't want to be what I seemed to be. I didn't. So it sounded good to be consciousness, you know, and brilliance and love and compassion and all these qualities sounded great. But then my day went on, and the day sort of screamed that, wow, that's not even fucking close to how it seems to be. You know what I mean? So it either demanded a huge urban renewal project, which was going to be a lot of work, yeah, a lot of the budget going to improving Paul, or, you know, or maybe looking a little bit in a different way, and instead of trying to hear about what I am, maybe read about what I'm not, you know, so maybe I could identify that what I'm not, and actually have a sense of identifying it from something that it was not, you know, like that which is seen. You know what I mean? The simple example is, you're seeing a lot of stuff, yeah? But usually the emphasis is on the stuff. The emphasis just goes to the seeing. So at one point you see what I call selfing, not from selfing. You see it from what you are, and really the gig is up then. Really. Because now you've gotten a possibility has been reintroduced. That not, oh, I'm that, but I'm not that. I am not that which is being implied. I am not that that's assumed. I'm not that historical action figure. I'm not something like, I'm not that. It's not anything. It's just a freaking observation. You know, I'm not that. And then what happens? You're now open to find out what you are. Yeah, and now the horse is in front of the cart. This is how it planned out for me. That's why I haven't left this point since it became clear. I don't know, a long time ago. Because I truly believe there's no point to go any further if the horse, I don't care how great your horse is, if the cart's in front of it, there's gonna be there's gonna be, you know, you're going to be around your own shit quite a lot because, you know, so this is the horses in front of the cart, and it just feels, you feel it, you know, it's a sense felt, and it becomes seamless. It's a seamless view of negation, you know, just not denial. See, denial doesn't work. Denial is what you're not does not to be something it ain't. Like I'm denying I'm a fraud or I'm an ass or whatever, which makes you more of an asshole or a fraud. You notice that, right? What, you don't want to be a fraud, you feel like one thousands of times. So denial is not what we're talking about. Denial doesn't work. Negation is different. Negation is just seeing not to. Yeah. There's not subject object. There's not a thing and another thing seeing the thing. There's not all this dancing on the stage it's an appearance of the audience, but it is not the audience. Let's put it that way. It's an appearance of audience or in audience, but it's not the audience as the way it appears. Yeah, it's not a separate thing. It's not individual. It's not that and then all this. It's not. Yes, that's all. And so what happens? You're not going to get rid of the action figure. You can, kill yourself, whatever. The action figure has it's on its stage, but let's say before, obsessed with self, the stage was all there was, The ceiling was so low, and all the windows look this way. It's all about you, all the spotlights on you all the time. This is sort of like something lifts and your eye, not the eyes that see the world, but your eye, see the space, So now the stage and the play continue, but you have a sense of the space that it's appearing in. And so this brings a huge leavening agent to the play going on. Yes, it's really awesome because this isn't going to be discontinued until you pass away. It isn't, yeah. Seriously. It's just going to go on. And some people are going to be surprised when great masters fucking lose their minds. They act like imbeciles, or they go back to drinking and their alcoholism catches them in the end. And everyone wants to pin what's coming through the person to the person, and it ain't. Enlightenment is an expression that can appear here, but it isn't derived from here. Yeah, there isn't a person who's enlightened. Because if there is, he's probably not enlightened quite a lot of the time. Yeah, and so you try to hide that shit, and then you're enlightened. And then you read about everything on Netflix or whatever, and fucking, what the fuck? Just nitrous oxide. Yeah, let's just be clear. And to me, I think, so this is just an invitation. It was stuck. And to me, it was funny. AA is a way of life that was completely necessary because my action figures programming veered it off into, walls and jails and hospitals and other people's lives and created havoc. So I was lucky enough to find a way of life. But first I was struck sober and then a way of life to stay sober. And so AA gave me the principles. And you know what? I don't think it's going to be a lifetime of reviewing what I'm not, If you looked at my last 3 months of surveillance tapes, not burning down houses, not fucking doing anything of any demerit or real merit, really, either. You know what I mean? I basically, and if you ask me how I feel, I have no idea, because I'm not like I'm on the pulse. What are Paul's intentions? Fucking to get a coffee, that's it. You know what I mean? It's fucking get some sun today. It's not like I mastered a scheme of anything. It's just it's like grazing all day. It's not causing any trouble. You can take the just put the camera with no film in it. It's good. So yeah, and then I feel a lot of our obsession with self appears in lots of ways. It's stated in recovery where the person obsessed with self will be virtuous, kind, this and that. It's still self-will. Yeah. I find the signs of freedom is a lack of interest in self. Yeah. You lose interest, like it says in our book, and you'll gain interest in others and a lot of other things. Yeah. But it's more represented by a loss of interest, not a concentrated focus, but a loss of interest. You're not the big topic of fucking surveillance all day, And that to me is really relief from the bondage of self. its interest and attention being redirected. You know, so you're available to people, and if you're available, and I'm saying you're present, yeah, you've never not been. No matter how much we entertain the past and the future, we do it as presence. Yeah, the presence is never lost. When you arrive at the mythical there, it's still here. You never escape the parameters of now and here, ever, 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 ever. We entertain these insane ideas, but they're always constricted by the format of here, which is presence. Yeah. Now there can be entertaining time, but there's presence. Yeah. Yeah. That becomes your basis, and so you're present and you're available. And if you're present and available, but this isn't like a heroic journey. It's just a basic condition. We are as what we are is present and available. You're of service. It's just that simple. You may not be doing service, or you may, but you're of service. And you don't get gypped. You're here completely. Yeah. Sometimes my head is like a chicken, can't find the keys, everything like that, but the here-ness is fucking drenched. You know, it's just fucking crazy. Because the mind is like unwinding in weird ways. It's fucking been held so tightly in the case, it's just springing fucking things. The system is, you know, it's just suffering repercussions of intensive drug use. You know? You know, really. So, but you don't get gypped. Yeah, it's beautiful. You're here when sleeping, when everywhere. Yeah, and it opens you up to possibilities that you used to believe. I used to believe you'd have to do so much work and vigilance just to keep that little opening open, you know. But no, sometimes they just keep opening up with no thought or effort on your part, none whatsoever, and you're placed in a position of neutrality. Yes, the problem does not exist for you. And if you really want to entertain it and let that freedom stabilize, see it as the problem does not exist as you anymore. Because the problem, you'll have experience where it doesn't exist for you, but it will come and go. If you want it to stabilize a little more, see that the problem does not exist as you. It's a huge leap, really. And then you've on the money, because you've seen it's the act of being identified as what you're not, is the bondage of self. It's not obsession. Obsession is used to reinforce the identification, because it has to be constantly reinforced. All the memories of you in the past as a body is a way of reinforcing it. All the worrying about what's going to be like for you in the future as a body is a way of reinforcing it. All the language is a way of reinforcing it. You're the doer, the feeler, the thinker, the haver, the loser. All this sense of ownership or doership or cause that you've been given through language, narration, pictures, all this. Yeah, they're constantly reinforcing this identification because it's an impossibility, to tell you the truth. The only way this magic trick could work is in time. Something that's impossible can seem to be possible in time. It can. It's impossible that we're separate from what we are. It's impossible. But in time, it can seem to be so. Yeah. But if timelessness dropped in, which it doesn't need to, it already is, there's a revelation there that, hey, it's always been this way. There's none of all these shenanigans you thought, oh, that definitely added some miles between me and Evan. No, it didn't. Oh, I can never forgive myself for that. Well, there was no ledger that, oh, that one, you know, little italics, no. It's all based on you playing God. And please see that it's not you that's playing God. If you don't, it will be playing God on you, big time. Yes? And it doesn't have a big role for you. It'll tell you you're everything, but really imply you're fucking nothing most of the time. Yes? No, it's very insidious. Very insidious. So, yeah. Simple invitation. like in recovery, let's say someone screwed up, yeah? House is on fire, everything's burning. You don't go to them and say, hey, there's no house, there's no fire, there's no self. You say, hey, I know where the nearest water is, get some. When the fire's put out, maybe you can ask them, hey, isn't it strange that you're at a lot of fires? You know what I mean? And start, maybe I'll hopefully let them see their role in things, and then maybe they'll start really seeing their role in things, which the Course of Miracles captures. You and I give everything all the meaning it has. That's a huge role. You and I give everything all the meaning it has. You and I are not, you and I are the occupants of a dream. No, you and I are the dreaming of the dream. That's much different. That's a big, big role. That you're the dreaming of the dreaming, not dreamt in it, but the dreaming of it. Yeah. But that largeness offers a lot of relief. Yeah. When you see your role in things in that largeness, there's a lot of relief available. Yeah, from what you're not. Yeah, and then therefore for what you're not. The from what you're not benefits what you're not greatly. But it won't benefit when it's for or as or through what you're not. But first it's from what you're not, and then what you're not benefits greatly from it. Greatly. Incredibly greatly. Actually, it gets exactly what it's been looking for that it could never find by looking for it. Yeah? In other words, it's been trying to wait for the package to be delivered in the front door. It comes in the back door. Yeah? Yeah, so it is, it's not as if it gets starved. It gets exactly what it wanted, but it can't see itself as a cause in any of it. Yes? So if it's not that, if it doesn't have it, it can't lose it. That's the beauty. So it gets untriggered from its little slinky move. Yeah. So I acquired it, and then it starts worrying. Well, when will I lose it? Yes. This is what happens. If you think you did something to be awake, you're going to be afraid you're going to do something to be unawake. And I guarantee you're going to be emphasizing the someone you're not awake more than the awake. So you'll get that one moment of awakeness, and then 30 years of I fucking really blew it. It's not like an even playing field. It's way laid over the disconnected than the connected. It's a bad deal. Fuck the connected and disconnected. You're neither of them. You're not connected or disconnected. It's just what's happening. And all those mental propositions will keep appearing. Yeah? But they'll have you, they may move your nose a centimeter to get a sniff, but you smelled that shit enough. Yeah, so it keeps on, and when there's, oh, something went with it, it wasn't you. Oh, I just got back. No, you didn't. I was really lost. I was up the SSL. No, you weren't. Yeah, all those little pantomimes. It's an incredible theater troupe you have, the mental state. There's tons of gymnastics. Spins shit out of the past, throws it into the future, just muddies the now completely. And then now it makes you a goal that maybe what you're not wants to get interested in. I think it's time for me to get to know the truth. Oh yes, is it really? Mm-hmm. The truth is, there's no fucking you. So stop packing for the trip to heaven. Yeah, so this is observation. I've just been involved in recovery 31 years, and my mind is fertile. A lot of ideas have come through it, and some of them have taken hold, and they grow, and things happen, and the fruit bears something, and I know the tree by its fruits. And so I get a chance to report how I'm seeing it right now, with the hopes that you can entertain the possibility. And then hopefully iron out some of the pitfalls of what happens when you think you get the message, yeah? So, you know what I mean? Just like being your doctor, tell you what happens, because it has about 3 or 4 little, like, unseen locks to lock the system in place. And one of them is trying to get out of it. That's one of the biggest ones. The biggest in of self-centeredness is trying to get out. That's the biggest in of all, really. Yeah? And so if you can see or get an example of a few of them, you'll recognize the pattern. Yeah? You don't need 800 examples. Maybe 4 or 5 will do. And then there'll be a keen, and then you know, there's just a knowing of that wasn't seemingly available before. And then things reveal themselves to you. See, like in AA, you know, as a simple diagram, when I was out there, I was trying to make a lot of shit as unreal as possible since I was young, yeah? I remember my grandmother, my father died, and I was trying to make things I was feeling and all that as unreal as possible. And by doing that, they were as real can be. Yeah. The more I try to make them unreal, the larger the looming of them were in my life. I didn't know this, it's in hindsight. Then I come in recovery, and recovery just stopped me, and all that shit I was trying to make unreal was able to land where I feel I am. And it all came. All those planes that were hanging out, they landed, and everything landed. And as I allowed them to be as real as they wanted to be, they revealed they're unreal, finally. Yeah? And then I could see the whole process. I was making something unreal as it could be by trying to make it unreal. It's fucking mind-boggling. And what it demonstrates, not only that, the power that's there, that I am what's giving reality to false evidence by believing in it. False evidence can only appear real to what's real. I must be what's real. Yeah, I mean, you can't escape it. I mean, all fingers point this way. Yeah? I mean, it has to lead you to a conclusion of what's happening here. And to me, the best way to describe it is dreaming. And, you know, this is like tag, you're it, really. And of course, then the dreamt is claiming to be the hero of it, so you've got to say, and that's not what's dreaming, that's the dreamt. Yeah, so don't waste time trying to convince the dreamt it's dreaming. It doesn't work. You'll read The Secret and, you know, wish to get 50 fucking Cadillacs or whatever, some new knee joints, and think the law of attraction, all this. That's what it'll do. And then a year and a half it'll just fade out like it fucking sold 1 million books and no one fucking didn't do anything with it. Yeah? Just another passing idea. Yes? Yeah. This is, you know. So see it. You see the little traps. That the message isn't to you, because it's sort of like talking to you about the Buddha goes nowhere. Talking to the Buddha about you goes somewhere. I'm serious. Because when the Buddha sees that as you, it's been looking for itself with itself, it fucking can become to a very abrupt stop, because it's not looking at it from Herbert or from Paul. It's looking at it from the Buddha. The Buddha hears it, hey, I've been using myself to find myself. It's funny as hell. And it usually laughs for quite a while, and then it comes to his freaking senses. It's what? Yeah. And so tons of evidence tons of information downloads just from that statement. Because it's like a spiritual shoe that you've put on and it fit. Yeah? And what happens? Find out, you know. But that one putting your foot in there can change everything. Yeah. There's these little cryptic statements explain it all. And self-recovery program has one of the greatest ones. Self can't get out of self is an unbelievable clear statement. It's incredible. And it's really a description of what could be happening here. That's what it is. And if the description fits, maybe quote-unquote you have been involved in that activity, and maybe it will bring it to at least a pause, because you'll see the utter futility of it. Because that's what hits you. The message, in that sense, is a futility. You realize, I've been attempting to get out of me as me. And yeah, boom. And then what happens? Then you're ready to be reconfigured, because you stopped moving. You stop moving, and then you can be reconfigured. And you can see, as Jesus says, you'll have eyes to see and ears to hear. They're already available, but they'll be accessed. They'll be turned on. Well, you'll see it, not from the mental state, but you will see the mental state. From what's seen, yeah? And you will get a hit that there is nothing seeing what's seen. That's it. It's the seeing. There's seeing here. There's awareness here, and there's nothing that's aware of the awareness. It's aware, yeah? So it's like the last house on the block, yeah? And it stops. And then everything else fucking continues on, but there's rest there. Rest, yeah? Or as they call it in spirituality, the abidance in the truth. The abidance in the truth is just like the obsessive, restless, and agitation. It's the same energy. It's what it's put in. If the energy of faith is put into the mental state, it produces tons of fucking anxiety and agitation. If that faith, that energy, is allowed to land in what's happening, that's the abidance in the truth. It's the exact same energy. Yeah? And that vibrates unbelievably. Yeah? Brings tons of light to fucking imaginary fucking scenarios. And this, it just disperses in its own nature. Light, yes. Space, yes. No focus, no locale, no centrality. Yeah. And hopefully some of that will come in here through us. And you'll see this is an expression. It is not a fucking cause. It's an expression. Yes. And you'll know the tree, that which you are, by the fruit. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a famous, I'm going to throw this in sense here a second. My favorite line is, this is a master, an old Zen master called Huang Po. He's got some of my favorite lines, and one of them is, whatever can be perceived cannot be perceiving. That's a beautiful statement, because you're being perceived, that's a body, you're out. Yeah? This is out. And then what's left? What we would call nothing, which is everything. So whatever can be perceived cannot be perceived. That which is perceiving, yes? So the eye isn't seeing. The eye isn't seeing. It facilitates seeing, it's not seeing. So then he goes, okay, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can't use mind, big mind, to seek mind. You can't use light to seek light. Now, for that master to say that to Steve, Bill, Mary, Sue would be totally inappropriate if they were Bill, Steve, Mary, Sue. But he sees them as the Buddha, so he's trying to throw it through Bill, Mary, Bill, and whatever, Sue, to the Buddha, so the Buddha hears it. Hey, you can't use yourself to find yourself. The light can't be used to find the light. It is the light. Yes? That should put an end to it all, really. So, yes, that's that. What has to do with AA? Everything. It will illuminate AA. You'll be the light that illuminates the program. The path can't illuminate that which can't be illuminated. Illuminated. It's the dreaming itself out of the dream by using an activity in the dream called recovery to become illuminated to its own luminance, so to speak, yes? It could have used a phone book if it wanted, but it uses whatever it wants to here because it's in the act of dreaming itself out of the dreaming, yeah? So for us, some of us, we found recovery. And so recovery allows all that we gave the power and the reality of being able to obscure us from the light is seen by the light. Yes? It doesn't open an access to the light. There's no access to the light. You are the light. Yeah? So you see what you're not from the only place you can see what you're not from, which is what you are, which is light, Buddha, mind. Yes? Yeah. So, all right. That's that. Hey, we'll pass the basket.